to Sensational Stories. We're on episode 3 now. No news this week, but it will be the same format. 4 parents, 4 questions. So let's jump straight into it. So first person to answer question 1 is Ali, and she answers by saying the following. So for context, my son was diagnosed almost 1 year ago. We had noticed some increased behaviour changes in him, more than what we considered his quirks. His resource teacher called me in November of 2018 to say she thought he should be tested. By May of 2019, I had an answer I never knew I should be looking for. Along with ASD, he has 2 specific learning disabilities, dysgraphia and dyscalculia. So what lesson am I learning? How to forgive myself for not recognising how hard he was struggling before he couldn't hide it anymore. To forgive myself for the times I thought some of his behaviour was choices. To forgive myself for expecting more from him than he could give. We are just new to this, so I am sure I will learn more, but I'm still working on this one. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Next up for question 1 is Dizzy Gillian, and she answers by saying the following. When you get your child's diagnosis and services give you lip service on all the help you're going to get, and that never happens, you realise people are full of bull. You can't trust anyone except yourself, and if you're lucky to have one, a partner. You're on your own fighting a nasty system for your child that will lie and screw you over in a heartbeat. I've learned loads of patience and tolerance, and I've become a fighter for my beautiful son, and lessons and things I've learned keep on coming as well. We have Gordon next for question 1, and he answers by saying the following. Don't know if I'd call it a lesson, but one thing I learned is when you can tell who your close family and friends are. I learned very quickly who our true friends are and which family members actually care. There are true feelings and opinions become apparent, and how quickly blame is targeted. How contacts start to diminish and disappear. Whoever is left, they will help you as best as they can to the best of their abilities. Next up for question 1 is Stacey, and she gives the following answer. Diagnosis gave us reasons to behaviours and problems my son was having, but actually didn't make a difference to us as a family, as my son didn't change. What did change was others' perception and attitudes towards my son and I. Then I was listened to and offered support and positive strategies and therapies for him. A real mix of answers on that one. Really interesting as I was reading them out. Got me thinking a little bit about my answer. I think the biggest lesson that I've learned personally is how to forgive myself. No, it sounds a bit selfish, but I think if you dwell on the mistakes you made in the past, or for myself anyway, the reluctance of believing, the stubbornness of not taking in information, trying to convince others that there's nothing wrong to reinforce your delusion, I guess is the right word. I've learned now to forgive myself. I've accepted that my boy is different, and now I've moved on, and I focus now on what I can do to support him in anything he does. Next for question 2 is Dizzy Gillian once more, and she answers by saying the following. By the experiences I have that go on my Twitter page, I hope it shows parents that life isn't easy being an autism parent. It's not full of unicorns and roses, but it's not because of your child. It's because of the surrounding things you have to fight for and the society for your child. But you aren't alone. I hope someone takes from me my fight and love I have for my son and uses it as an inspiration to never give up. Hope that we can share and help each other with our experiences and support each other. And remember, the problem isn't our kids, it's the world we live in. We have to keep on going for our kids. We're back with Gordon for question 2, and he answers by saying the following. I hope they will help, or at least help people gain insight or a different perspective into their own situations that might help them find their own answers or solutions. So we're back with Stacey for question 2, and she answers by saying the following. I think as a parent of a SEN child, it is important to support your child, but also receive support for others, professionally and friends and family. Don't isolate yourselves from gatherings or activities, as your children have to live in the big world. Maybe go, but leave prematurely if it gets a bit too much. Take a day at a time. You know your child, what and how much they can handle. Children will grow and mature. Things change and improve. Support and praise them with their independence, a day and step at a time. Next up for question 2 is Ali once more, and she answers the following question. How do you think your experiences will help other SEND individuals in the future? I understand now that I don't have to live in a bubble. I don't have to feel like I don't know what I'm doing. There are others that know. It's about finding the courage to reach out because it has benefited my son and me. Again, another set of really good answers by the parents. What I've learned is, with my experience, I think it's to let other parents know, especially when their child first gets diagnosed. For me personally, and I'm sure it was the same for a lot of you, is you feel this immense pressure, like almost like your life's going to change. You delve into research about everything you can. Again, this is my personal journey. Some may have already done it before the diagnosis. But it's letting other parents that are going through that process that don't put too much pressure on yourself. Everything's going to be okay. Your child isn't going to change because you've got a diagnosis. Yes, things may be different, but your child will be the same. And just to keep on doing what you're doing. There is no manual. There is no blue book that you can pick up and it tells you how to raise your child correctly. Even with a child without a diagnosis, there isn't an instruction manual. But with a SEN child, every child is different. So you've just got to do the best that you can. So we're back with Stacey for question 3. My child has developed a close relationship with family and a close group of friends. He is popular at school. With a developing teacher, pupil relationships is not easy. Preferably likes the same faces and won't communicate very well with strangers, but has a good relationship with his one-to-one, a few other staff and his head teacher at school. He has trouble communicating, starting conversations or introducing himself, so making new friends has had its barriers, but he is really improving with maturity and support. I would get involved in the first introduction to new friends with my child, just to start him off and support him with prompting and asking questions, giving him ideas to suggest on what to play/talk about. So we're back with Ali for question 3, who answers the following question. Apart from parents, has your child developed a close relationship with any others? I would say he developed a close connection to his teacher last year. Not exactly close, but as his teacher had a son with ASD, he felt understood by him. I wouldn't say he's close with anyone though. We're back with Dizzy Gillian for question 3, and she answers by saying, my child has developed a close relationship with my mum and dad, more so my dad though. They have a relationship that is so unique they both get each other. My son is like a different child with him. My son has developed close relationships with others, but they have let him down and dropped him. In turn, this has led my son not having a good sense of trust in people. So that was question 3. Really brings to light how different our children are. For me personally, I've got to take some fault because for grandparents, for instance, if I put in a little bit more effort to take him round and see his grandparents, I think he would be extremely close. The fact is, when he does see them, his grandma and his granddad, they're so nice, they're so accepting, they will cuddle him and praise him. There is no sort of hold him back because he's got autism. But the issue is that he, as with any autistic child, he's not fully used to them. For instance, they will try and give him a cuddle when they say bye, and he'll kind of turn his shoulder so he's not fully fully grasped. The other one is his friends. That's come with time. I mentioned in episode 1 or 2, I think it was, that I had to approach a group of parents, which was daunting, just for them to get to know me, get to know my boy, and now he's kind of friends with their children now, and they've accepted that he's different, and he's become part of a group. Of course, it's different for every child depending on what their social level is, but yeah, he's done really, really well. So we're on to the final question, question 4, and we're back with Stacey. I've set my child realistic goals, short and long term, to prepare him for independent living as an adult. I've had to learn when to step back a bit and observe, not to jump in straight away to assist if I'm not needed, but once was in some situations. I will support him on his journey with any resources, provisions he may need to overcome any barriers and accomplish his wishes and aspirations in life. Next up for question 4 is Ali once more. How are you preparing your child for the future? I'm trying to build his confidence. I tell him he can achieve whatever he wants, but he may have to work harder and go slower than others. He wants to stay here when he grows up, and I will always tell him he will be welcome to live with me as long as he likes. I guess I encourage him to follow whatever path he wants, and I tell him I will help him figure it out as we go. So we're back with Gordon for question 4 and his final answer. Trying to teach him as much as we can in life skills and self-help, even though sadly he will always need full-time support, so getting a financial base through savings and our wills in place is important. To also make sure after we're gone he won't be alone, and he'll have someone to care for / about him, and he'll always have somewhere to call home. We're back with Dizzy Gillian to finally answer question 4, and she answers by saying the following. Harrison is homeschooled by me due to him being mistreated in school. As well as educating him, we are teaching him life skills every single day, and I hope one day he can live safe and happy with skills to the best of his abilities, with someone that looks after him and helps him when me and his dad aren't here. That's something we are trying to sort out, but for now, life skills are a big, big part of his education. We want his future to be secure and happy. So that's the end of question 4, and there really is a consensus. It's probably the same with every parent. We just want what's best for our child. I know some of the answers were slightly different on that question, but we just want to make sure they're okay. And we do realise that we're not going to be around forever. For me, that's a question I ask myself every day. It keeps me awake at night. I seem to dwell on some of the horrors that happen in our society, and I can't help but be my worst enemy when it comes to that asking the question, what if it was my child? How would he deal with it? And I guess the way that I prepare my child, and it's very, very difficult because you have to take every step daily, but then you have to think about how you're preparing them for the future. And the way I've personally been doing it is trying to teach them fundamentals, to be kind, to be caring, to show empathy, but also to focus on his education, to make sure that he's learning, because in today's world it's so important that if you've got an education, obviously life becomes that little bit easier financially if you go into a good job. So I've just been trying to teach him just some of the basics. So hopefully when I do pass and my wife does, he's got those things built into him, and hopefully he'll be able to steer himself in the right direction. So that's the end of episode 3. Thank you to all the parents that took part. That's Gillian, Alison, Stacey, and Gordon. I've really got to start writing these down. Thank you to all 4 of you. As usual, when you guys send back your answers and I read them for the first time, it really is amazing. I know you have slightly different points of view depending on your child, but it really does warm my heart to see just how different and what you're going through, and I'm sure some of the viewers do too. So I hoped taking part helped you, but I can tell you that a lot of the other parents that watch this, it's nice to hear that it's helped them as well. So thank you so much for taking part. As usual, like, subscribe, and switch on notifications if you want to see more episodes. We've still got the Facebook page as well, so if you want to come across and take a look, please do. I'll put that in the description. And we've also got our Twitter community. All the Twitter handles will be in the description as well, so if you want to come across and say hello, please do. So that's the end of episode 3. See you next time.